All right, traders, good afternoon. This is Christian Fromhertz, and it is December 20th, 5 days to Christmas. One more day to the end of the week, quadruple witching it before I start my video for the day and kind of go over a lot of the price action and so forth. Just to remind you, it is quadruple witching tomorrow. Will this really affect you? Maybe you just want to be aware of how much volume is going to trade. What happens, just to kind of break down, a lot of people say quadruple witching and they don't know or they don't really break it out. But one of the witches is index futures and stock futures, I think, as well. They expire on the open. So you will see a lot of volume on tomorrow's open. It will usually dissipate within about 10 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes after the open. What happens is index guys who are on Delta One desks and who have index positions, what they will do is trade baskets of stock versus their futures positions. So if they have S&P futures that expire on the open, they get closed out at what's called special quotation price. So they trade a basket of stock versus that, and that's mainly on market on open. So you'll see that all in the opening print. And guys will try to arb a little bit, so you'll see that volume kind of trickle into the first 5 or 10 minutes. So that's one of the witches. You'll see a lot of volume on the open. Number two, S&P and Nasdaq indices rebalance for the quarter. So all the members in the S&P, as well as all the sector ETFs like XRT, ITB, XBI, they all get reshuffled or rebalanced, but I like to use the word reshuffled. I don't know. For the most part, they usually kick out one or two names, or sometimes a couple names. I shouldn't just say one or two, but that usually takes place. And then they also change up all the individual names, right? They put them back to benchmark weights. That happens on the close. Keep in mind those announcements were made last week, so that's heavily gamed and pre-positioned. So, if you were kind of wondering why some things really moved around or were whippy in some sectors, it's because a lot of the winners get sold and the losers get bought. That goes into effect, so you will see a lot of volume on tomorrow's close. And then there's also a couple other witches too, but those are some of the main ones. Then of course there's option expiration. Okay, so let's talk about that. Took me 2 minutes to go through. I just wanted to mention that just so that you're aware of that volume. But really today's price action, I think pretty good. I mean, if you're looking to kind of deploy some money at this point, I'm going to go through the process, right? There's no guarantees, there's no sure things. Somebody asked me yesterday on Twitter. They said, what do you think, up or down 10%? What do you think? What do you think the next move is going to be? I never know the answer to that question. I never make predictions. I just follow. I kind of look at the weight of the evidence of what we're seeing, and then make a determination based on if it's a good trading opportunity. And if you've been trading for a while, you start to get the hang of that instead of making market predictions from crystal balls and so forth. The best you could do is look at indicators and look for trading setups and where it's a good where the risk to reward really lines up well, and it's a good situation to deploy some risk. That's really what to me trading is all about. I will say this too before I kind of go through the technicals. If you've been trading in this bull market for the last 5+ years, this is really where you earn your stripes. This is really where you learn things. When the market just goes straight up, you don't really get much better as a trader. You don't really learn a ton of things. But if this volatility is new and it's the first time that you've ever experienced it before, take some notes because again, you want to learn. If you made mistakes, everybody makes mistakes, and that's another thing to learn as a trader. I've made mistakes over the last couple of months. I don't, it's fine to admit that. No one is perfect, but you want to make sure that you're learning from some of those mistakes. So make sure that as you get through this volatility, there's a lot of things that you could really pick up on in your trading, and because these cycles will repeat. This is how trading works, right? Things don't go up in a straight line. Things don't go down in a straight line. There's a lot of in between through that. Okay, so again, it's a great, regardless of how you've done the last couple months, this is really where you want to learn things. So it's valuable. It's education, and it's hands-on, right? You can't paper trade to really learn that much, in my opinion. I know people try to paper trade, when they first start, but really you have to kind of be in. You have to be in it. to really grasp and to get that experience. All right. So, what do I like about today? I mean, we did. I was talking about in last night's video that the RSIs were not oversold enough. I thought they could get a little bit worse. So yeah, I mean, look at what we did today, and we have a hammer bar on the S&P today. So I think that's so. Then if you start to look at other things, right? You've got a big decline. You got the RSI now in oversold territory. Not perfectly as oversold as it was back here, but I mean, we've had a number of red days in a row. You know, here was your failure to get back into value, your retest. So, I mean, I think that this is, you know, I could tell you what I did today. I put some money to work. It's the first time that I've done that in a while. Weekly's chart, I mean, it doesn't mean that this is over with, that the bear market or the declines are over with, but could just kind of set up for a nice bounce trade. And that's what I'm thinking. I didn't go crazy long, a whole bunch of things, but you know, I bought some Qs today. I bought some XBI, some biotech today. So let me go over the Qs charts next. Now, the best thing I could kind of tell you is what I did, rather than give you some prediction. But same thing with Nasdaq futures. We did take out a virgin point of control. We do we have another one down here? No, we don't have another one right down here. So I like to see that. I know we took out one of these in IWM and it didn't really work. But again, not perfectly oversold. But I think after a decent decline, I think it's worth taking a shot. So that's what I did today in the Qs. We also saw a nice, I know I've been giving option activity a hard time, but there was a pretty decent sized trade that caught my eye. Right? And again, for me, it's just like kind of a confirming factor. This is the one right here. This is a $2.7 million order. This went up right around 230. Feb 1st, 161. 161 calls, $2.7 million order. Notice there was also, what time did this one go up? This is a big put order. This was at 12 o'clock, 10,000 of the January 145 puts, also right around the same amount. Okay, so there was two-way flow. There's another one here, looks like. So, there's a lot. there's a lot of order flow, right? So it's if something like this, like the puts don't agree with me right now. I think the calls do, right? So to me, it's kind of confirming a little bit of what I want to see somebody maybe put a little bit of money to work on the institutional side. That brings up the put call ratio. So again, some things that I'm looking for is for things to get pretty extreme. Look at the preliminary option volume that Trade Alert put out. 30 million contracts. That's 47% above recent average. Look at puts to calls, right? So the put call ratio, which I don't know if it's going to update here on Bloomberg. Let's see. But you want to see like an exhaustive. I'll get to HYG in a minute. So I guess I want to leave this up. Here, I can bring this over. But if you look at the put call, I just have to make sure I don't mess up my video here. Put call ratio. I don't know if this is going to. Oh, this is the intraday one. So this might update, and we'll just see what this looks like here. All right, so it's pretty high. Is it blowout numbers? No, but I mean that's a pretty good signal, I think. So 18 million puts versus 12 million calls. Heavy volume today. So that's one of the things I'm looking for. Also, fear and greed got to I think it got to a 4, I heard today. So the sentiment is really getting washed out. So again, that's where I think the risk to reward comes through. Is it a certainty that the market goes up tomorrow or in the beginning of next week? No, but I think it just makes good risk to reward. And I'll tell you, there's still good trading opportunities on both sides. I talked about that in the midday video. I mean, I made some money on IWM puts, but once this thing turned around, I think also the risk to reward, notice you see a lot more big green candles here, right? I mean, I think any good news at this point is going to lift this market. I think the sentiment has really flipped. So I think it sets up well now for longs. Let me talk a little bit about, so it's not all rosy. So HYG, let me talk about the volume today. This is the biggest volume day in HYG on record on this break. So let's look at this in terms of the daily. Let's look in terms of this on Thinkorswim. So yeah, I mean it's kind of a hammer bar. Notice there was big volume here. We rebounded. You know, I think people are really starting to. I don't want to use the word panic because I think that's thrown around too much. But you look at the put activity in some names today. Let's see if I have this up. Yeah, look at this PSEC. PSEC. People are really starting to go after companies, I think, that have. Now, I'm not an expert on these companies, but I'm guessing that people are really getting freaked out about debt exposure. There was another one that we saw, AINV. You know, people are really shorting. So, you know, if you think that there's really going to be a meltdown, you know, perhaps you could put some of these puts on for names that are highly, I believe, and if I'm wrong, please don't get mad at me because I said I'm not an expert on this, but I believe these names, these guys are like, have a lot of debt on their balance sheet. So look at this PSEC tumble. I don't know where it closed. But yeah, so I mean, these are names that if you want to, you could go after and have some put protection in some vulnerable names. AINV is Apollo. So somebody going after this as well today. So again, big put activity. I could go over a couple different sectors as well. XBI, which has really gotten blown out. You know, there is another VPOC out here. I tweeted about this earlier. But again, it doesn't mean that we're going to get there in a perfect straight line. I'm long a little bit of XBI. I just think it's due for maybe a 1 or 2 day bounce. And then I wouldn't be surprised if we resume going down as well. But I think just for a quick trade, I think this is set up, you know, for possibly a bounce. I don't know with quadruple witching if we're going to get that tomorrow. But we could start to go through a couple stocks. I'll tell you what I added to this name. So I'm happy to share with you guys what I do. You know, and we provide this guidance all day long and kind of give you up to the minute. So if you're not a member of Tribeca Trade Group, check it out. It's only $7.99 a month. We're all trying to help each other. It's not like I know people give option trading rooms or trading rooms a bad. Rightly so. A lot of them are not good, but we're all a team and we try to help each other and get each other the best information so that, you know, we can, with the goal of making money. And that's our that's what we try to do every day. I like this team, even though it went up on chatter rumors. I bought some shares in cash in this name. It's an $82 stock. The implied volatility is really jacked in these options, so that's why I traded stock versus it. But nice bounce on the bottom of value, above the 50-day moving average. So it's got some nice strength to it. Probably draw a little bit of a trend line in here. So I like this. I like the team. So again, you start to look for some opportunities. There was some call buying and you know, like, you know, the momentum stuff. Netflix, which has kind of been holding in there. I've been also talking about Google. I'll bring up that chart as well. It was down 2.3%. Let me go to Google next. Just to look at what some of these bigger names are doing. Oh, also the other thing that I knew there's a couple other points that I wanted to make. I mean, Google's been sitting here. I mean, I would watch if it breaks that 1,000 level, but for now it's holding it. Still finished down on the day. So no major signal there, just on my watch list. I did start a small position in that as well this morning, which feels like a long time ago. Amazon kind of looks similar. I would watch that low from November to see if it gets taken out. So I'm not in love with that chart. Let me go through. I think the last of the generals were kind of taken out yesterday and today. Like Cisco has been holding up very well finally got hit hard today and yesterday. Same thing with Microsoft. Like this, I think is also part of the process. When you have a big decline, usually the generals are the last ones to go. And I know some of them have already been taken out, such as the FANG stocks. But Microsoft held in there. Big next week's calls went up about midday today. But I don't know if those were bought. You know, just a big block. It was not swept. But still, that was taken out. Notice where this thing went down to. 99 bucks, closed at 101. So I would keep an eye on this name. Visa also looks like it is broken a little bit. Outside of tech, UNH, this has been a darling of the market. Also taken out pretty hard today, down 3%. So again, I'm not saying that there's not that downside. That there's going to be more downside, but I think in the short term, I think that we're due for a bounce at this point, and we're close to it. So, oh, and the last thing I'll say before I leave the video. So again, it doesn't mean you know, one of the lessons from this move down that we've seen in the market is, you know, positioning. You really have to be careful with positioning, especially when we lose a uptrend. For me, I've been talking about how I've been mostly in cash, and it's a lot easier to manage. The fewer positions you have on, you know, keep in mind the VIX shot up to a 30 today, did close off the highs. Let's look at that chart. But this is not, with this volatility, you know, again, day trading, great, in and out of positions, but you want to be, in my opinion, you want to be carrying less positions when the volatility is this high. It's too, especially in options. And you've got to be monitoring stops, whatever you put on. Make sure that you set a stop alert as soon as you put that position on. But yes, options very difficult to do any type of swing trading right now. Day trading is a whole nother game. And again, this video is for information purposes only. So that's it for today. We talked about a lot of concepts, but you know, it's a lot of things are starting to line up for me to play a bounce. Hence me actually putting on a couple positions. A lot of boxes were checked for me today in order for me to kind of put on some risk. All right, guys, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and have a great night.